All right, let's see what today's card is. Card number 19. It's only desperation if you have no actual strategy. Let me read you this and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Always act in line with an empowered plan that advances your progress towards your goals. The exact same action can often be viewed as either desperate or strategic, depending on whether it is part of a plan or not. Think about a decision you're making right now. What would be the desperate thing to do? And what would be the empowered thing to do? So think about a decision you're making right now. Whatever comes to mind. Actually, you know what I did? I thought of a quote from a movie that's sampled by the Wu-Tang Clan in one of their songs. The quote is as follows: "Sword fighting is like a game of chess. You must think before you move." That is a quote from a martial arts movie, an old one, and I think it's really relevant to today's card. And the reason I think so is because even though I don't think that it's, now I shouldn't say because I'm no professional sword fighter. What would that mean in 2023 to be a professional sword fighter? I guess you'd have to, maybe you're a person who trains people for movies and stuff, I guess. Oh, well, I guess fencers are professional sword fighters, right? Oh, there you go. Well, is there a professional fencing or is it just amateur fencing? That's a good question. If you know that, put that in the comments. I took fencing lessons years ago. It was nice. Anyway, so and this is the thing about it. I think that for any activity, physical activity, we talked about this in a card a few days ago, know what you do unconsciously. And we talked about the idea that when athletes start thinking, that's when they start messing up. And I think that the same is probably true for sword fighting. So I will take this martial arts movie advice with a grain of salt. But I think it's helpful for what we're talking about. Because in life, and in Life's Potluck Buffet, the first thing we do is we react to the question with whatever comes to our mind. And that's really, really important because it's liberating and it frees us up. And then we think about that. And then we analyze that. And then we talk to other people about that. And those are the steps. And so those are the same steps to build a strategy around. And if you have a hard time figuring that out, talking to someone who's good at identifying your strengths and good themselves at understanding acting from places of strength is a good idea. You could also do this with folks you know who are also trying to figure out their way forward and how to operate from a position of strength. Having a buddy system in this regard is a really good thing as well, because sometimes you don't see something that the other person sees and vice versa. And it doesn't matter if either of you have the habit of operating from a place of strength or not. What you're doing is developing that together. So that's a really nice thing to do. I once wrote an article about bargaining and the economy of markets in various places around the world and in the ancient world as well. And I always think about that market scenario, usually maybe described as a bazaar in some languages, where prices are not fixed, prices are unknown. There's not a lot of information that you have about pricing, and that prices are ultimately arrived at through negotiation or bargaining. Thinking about entering into those situations, I think is a helpful analogy for how to act in anything that you do in your business life and your work life without desperation. And it's helpful for a couple of reasons. First, because you know that there are other fish in the sea. So what do I mean by there are lots of fish in the sea? Well, what I mean is that in that marketplace, whatever good you're trying to buy, odds are there's probably another purveyor of that good. And we understand that because we understand, well, I'll find something like this elsewhere. And that starts you operating from a position of strength, that you're not desperate. This is the only one like this. Because if it is a case of this is the only thing like this, we should ask ourselves, is this really the only thing like this? And if so, can I make a decision about this from a position of strength where I don't start with the idea that this is the only thing like this in the world? In your business or work life, you say you're presented with an opportunity or what you think is an opportunity. A lot of times we think, I know I fall into this trap all the time. You think, oh, this is a big opportunity. This is going to be the only chance to have this opportunity. Well, I was watching a sitcom, and that strategy, saying this is the only chance for your opportunity, that's the kind of thinking of con artists, right? They say things, oh, you're not gonna have another chance at this opportunity. You're gonna blow it if you don't write out that check. That's not a position of strength for you. So in every opportunity or decision that you're faced with, thinking about, is this really the only chance that this is ever going to happen? And I think about another one of our other cards that I talked about that was talking about you'll be in a good port again in the future. You have been in the past, and you'll be there again. That kind of thinking leads to empowerment because it says that this isn't the only opportunity you're ever going to have. And also that idea of sometimes small things become big things. This is that same thinking, because when we think about things as being a really big opportunity, we get desperate. We say, oh, there's never going to be another opportunity like this again. When you say that to yourself, take that step back and say, am I conning myself? Did I just con myself? Because by doing that, you're operating from a position of desperation and not one of strength. And the second reason that this bizarre marketplace resembles the decision-making process that we're talking about is because others matter in the interaction. It's not you simply making a decision with yourself. There's somebody else's input involved in this decision. And to go back to the sword fighting is like chess analogy, this is one way in which decision-making is not like chess, because decision-making doesn't have a fixed field of play. In chess, you can rank moves as, was that a good move? Was that a very good move? Was that a bad move? Because in the grand scheme of things, there are only so many other moves that can happen during the rest of the game. It's not an infinite number. But when it comes to the free play of life, where there is no chessboard, and that an almost uncountable number of things can happen after you've made a decision, before you've made a decision, while you're making the decision, that are already in motion. So understanding that as well is critical to understanding how to operate from a position of strength. Because if you allow for that fact, if you allow for the fact that there are an uncountable number of circumstances that can happen around this decision, of which I am aware of about 5 or 6, 7 at most. The rest of the factors involved that you simply cannot be aware of are so numerous that it should give you confidence that by operating from a place that says, this is what I need for myself, this is what I want for myself, how can I achieve that? And keeping your eye on that and understanding that, because there are countless number of factors that you can't know. And with that lack of knowledge comes strength, because you can't second guess yourself when you don't know what's going to happen with your first guess anyway. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And if you happen to chance buy Life's Potluck Buffet, decide whether or not you'd like to buy a pack. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.